Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. In the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble.
Assemble.
Volume 230. Numbers are hard at that point, and not only do we have another new episode of Agatha All Along, but we have a trailer that I did not see coming.
Yeah, that was exciting to find that out was coming. I didn't realize it was coming. I was driving to work. I got a text from my friend Brock, and he's just like, Thunderbolts trailers. I'm like, seriously? So of course, David and I we had one of our meetings and had to partake of that.
Your special meetings.
Our special meetings. He was kind enough to wait for me to. I was late to work that day. He was kind enough to wait for me to get there, and yeah, I'm going to speak for David here. We both really enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah, I'll hold my thoughts at that point, but yeah, it was a nice surprise because really that was the only real significant news that dropped this week. But I'll take it at that point with a new episode. But how's been your week?
It's been pretty good. I I kind of feel like I completed a pretty big project at work today. And I guess listeners don't know this yet. I'm gone next week at a conference, so I really, really felt like I had a self-imposed deadline because it just makes life easier if I finished it by end of day tomorrow. And feeling like I got there today, I'm feeling good about it.
Yeah, I've been at a beginning of the week. I was out of town for a 2-day PD, which is probably professional development for the uninitiated. And it was probably for 2 days out of town, and it was probably one of the best PDs I've ever been to. And then, it's fun to be out of town sometimes, and then you come back and you have to do a lot of catch up. But it's an even more shorter week because we have a hurricane heading towards us at that point. So
Yeah, not good.
we want to wish all our listeners directly in the path in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and obviously I'm in North Carolina, but they're taking the brunt of it right now. So wish you all staying safe and be well, and hopefully everyone makes it out okay. So, but yeah, so I have the day off tomorrow because we want to make sure the kids are safe, and we got high winds heading our way the next day. So, but the good thing is for us, it should be out of our area by midday, so that'll be at least good. That's 2 hurricanes that I've had to deal with already this year.
It's too many.
Yeah, it's too many at that point. But all right. So let us get into the network plug so we can talk about this new episode of Agatha All Along. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 7 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance network on Twitter at JUA Pod Network so you know when all the shows drop. I have a quick programming note for that. World's Finest True Believers episode 100 should be dropping this Sunday. However, we've had the guest on this one is scheduling stuff at that point, so it's going to be delayed 1 week. So episode 100 will come out 1 week from Sunday. So slight delay because when we're recording it, it's too quick of a turnaround to get it ready for this Sunday. So, but it'll be worth it. I'll talk more about it next week. So just want to put that out there. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. Our dollar tier is our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows, including we got 2 shows on there. We can watch this all day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch, 24 episodes up there for your listening pleasure. And then our current show, Tales from the House of X, where we are watching our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. We have 6 episodes now, and X2 is the one that has officially dropped now, or will be dropping. It's dropping Monday.
Yeah,
actually.
It drops in a few days.
Yeah, it drops on Monday. So hopefully you all enjoy that. Brent and I still have to schedule October, so we gotta maybe some behind the scenes after the show. So thank you, Fiffa Jack. Yeah, we should hopefully should be okay. And yeah, as you said, everyone affected by the hurricane as well. But yeah, we also have some great back content out there from DC Alliance Boys doing DC Film Through the Years, Joe's Multiverse Minutes, Disney Dives, the 1st and the 15th of every month, looking at Disney animation and film in chronological order. A lot of back content, so we want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. And if you're not a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA Network so you can get all that lovely content. But if you can't join us on Patreon, we totally understand. If you want to take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, we greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. New pre-order catalog has launched, and we've got some interesting ones this time. The Fantastic Four Doom 2099 Omnibus. So it really should be called the Doom 2099 Omnibus because that makes up the bulk of it, because there are only 8 issues, I believe, of Fantastic Four 2099. But I think next to Spider-Man 2099, Doom 2099 was one of my favorites.
I don't think I've read issues that Doom 2099 was in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, outside maybe 1 or 2, I don't think I've ever actually read like this series.
Yeah. I'd recommend it. It's a fun kind of, even though it's a DC term, fun alternative history, Elseworlds.
There you go.
We got Wolverine by Jason Aaron, Volume 1 coming back into print. First time in a couple of years for that. And we got some interesting giant size Marvel omnibus. So all the giant size issues in one lovely omnibus. So if you're interested in any of those, use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. Use it an unlimited amount of times. Let them know you're a listener, and we want to thank them for being one of our official sponsors. So, all right, Brent. Agatha All Along, Episode 3, entitled Through Many Miles / of Tricks and Trials. So I think as we all predicted... Oh, but first, totally forgot. Something even more important. We want to send our condolences. Former Geek Ultimate Alliance DCA host Greg. He hasn't been on the network for a bit, but he's still one of the founding members of the GUA. He has tragically lost his wife in a car accident last week. Our thoughts and prayers are with Greg and his family and his entire family. There is a GoFundMe to help raise money for her funeral and other costs of this immense tragedy. No donation is too small, so please, the link is in the show notes below to the GoFundMe page. And again, Greg, our thoughts and prayers and our hearts are with you all. We're here for you. And again, not anything that we could say that could take away that pain, but we are here with you. So again, if you have it in you to even put $1 in there, the GoFundMe link is in the show notes. So thank you for doing that. So not an easy thing to transition to.
No. Horrible news.
Yes, absolutely.
I was shocked when Travis told us about it.
Yes. So, but anyway, so not an easy way to transition, but anyway, we will head into our breakdown of episode 3, as I said, through many miles / of tricks and trials. So, non-spoiler thoughts.
I had fun with this one. I really enjoyed it. Obviously we'll talk about the trial in this one on the spoiler wall, but for me it really worked. I've heard a couple criticisms about it that I understand, but maybe they just didn't bother me as much as they bothered other people, but they're fair probably. But there was some really great material in this one. We got a little bit of backstory of a couple people, and things aren't always as they seem on the Witch's Road, and I'm really curious about the end of this episode and if things are as they seem.
Yeah, I will continue sticking by. Catherine Hahn is outstanding in this. She has been for 3 episodes solid. Her characterization of Agatha, her timing, her comedic timing, just the back and forth that she has, and the secrets that she's holding. She has helped me enjoy this show so far. I think my qualms about this episode are maybe, and you and I have talked about this, and unfortunately, my expectations for this episode were maybe a little too high. in the sense of I wasn't expecting like, oh, it was supposed to be the best episode ever. But for the first trial, I expected a little bit more.
Really? Okay.
In the sense of I didn't expect to be confined in this way. I don't know what I was, what did you expect? I think maybe I expected a bigger trial, but maybe it's the first one, and maybe our bigger trials are coming a little bit later.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought
So.
You build up to the bigger trial.
Fair.
To me, the big trial should be
The final.
whatever the final trial is. I don't want to say like number 5 or whatever the final trial is. That should be the big one.
Yeah.
Presumably the final episode of the show, maybe the penultimate episode of the show. The first trial, that should be the stepping stone. That should be the relatively easy one.
It was an entertaining one, I'll say that. It brought about some questions, and I think to your point, you're starting to convince me that it does now as you bring that point up appropriate. Maybe I just expected just a little bit more. So
now that said, if we go into next week's and it's like nothing, like if they have another trial next week, which we presume they do, and it's nothing, they get out of it in 10 minutes or whatever, well then that's a little different. And I'll be like, okay, I don't understand the order of operations here.
Yeah, and to the point, we have 9 episodes, correct?
Yes, 9.
And there's 6 of them.
The Coven has, well, the Coven was 6. Yeah, well, she recruited 4, and then her 6. I feel
maybe
like
5. Okay, 5.
I feel like
5.
I'm counting wrong.
Well, in any case,
5 plus teen.
Yeah, 5 plus teen then. Okay, so more of the point of, the pentagram 5 at that point. I was just thinking, so we've got 1. We've on episode 3, so we probably have 4 more trials to go.
If they go 1 episode per trial, yeah.
Yeah, so with a few episodes probably with maybe some backstory, flashback episode, things that they do in television.
Sure.
So, but yeah, not a bad episode. You're starting to convince me, maybe turning me around at that point. Definitely not. I still think episode 1 is my favorite so far of the 3.
Fair. It's fair.
So, but yeah, so some good highlights. But are you ready to jump over the spoiler wall?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we're going to take our first ad break. So if you haven't watched episode 3 of Agatha all along, stop now, watch, and then come back. Otherwise, you're going to be spoiled. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud, so give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. Okay, so Brent, things pick up right where they left off as the Coven departs down the Witch's Road, and with no idea what lies ahead. All of the witches are stunned to discover that the road is even real, except for Sharon, who is convinced that everyone has kidnapped her. So the Coven, sans Agatha, is concerned that Sharon is with them at all, since she poses an obvious liability with no actual magical abilities.
Yeah, she's supposed to be like the Green Witch, right? So
yeah, because she's gardening, right?
As the resident Green Witch, and of course that's not who we believe it is. We all believe it's going to end up being Rio to serve that role.
Yes,
but presuming it's Mrs. Hart, I'm going to keep calling her Mrs. Hart. Presuming it's Mrs. Hart, then that's the trial. I'm like, what would they have done for the trial that she was supposed to like be the lead on? Because it's only the 1 episode on the road, but it feels like there's a formula they could easily fall into. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but each individual witch will have their own trial. This one was Jen's, the potion master or whatever she's called, where she was the lead on this one. She was the one who could get them out of it. And I'm like, what would they like? I'm already like, what are they going to do when Mrs. Hart is supposed to take the lead on this?
Yeah.
Because clearly you watch what happens. She falls into some kind of quicksand or something going after her purse. And like, she's immediately like putting herself and by extension, the rest of the Coven in danger.
Yeah. And Jennifer Kale asked Sharon Davis, Mrs. Hart, and why is this non-witch with them? And Teen says anyone can be a witch with proper training. And Agatha then informs them that the road is really a test of sorts, that they're going to be put through a series of trials in order to make it to the end. The kicker is that none of them have access to their powers, which means that they'll need to rely on quote-unquote analog magic. And as John Locke John Locke's character Teen says, "Witchcraft, emphasis on the craft."
Yeah, I like that part. I never thought of calling it analog before, but
Yeah,
it works for me.
but I did like that they started getting more curious about what's going on with Teen. You know, the rest of the coven would love to know. Too bad he can't tell them because of we've now termed it as a sigil has been placed on him. First time anyone's pointed it out, and Agatha denies knowing anything about it. And now they got another new mystery, as the Teen himself points out. Why would anyone want to hide him? Indeed, Brent.
Yeah, and Sigil, of course, made me think of Crush and Comics.
Yeah.
But regardless,
that's the Easter egg right there for you.
That's for me personally. It's there for Brock as well. He was a big Crushing fan.
Absolutely.
The sigil does answer a question, because has been some speculation of like, is Agatha the only one who can't hear what he's saying, or is it other people too when he talks about himself? Well, clearly none of the other witches could. We didn't really get Sharon's reaction to this, Mrs. Hart's. As a non-magical person, I would have liked to have seen if she could hear it, but excuse me, without it, regardless, I like that that's the case, because he is actually, like, of all of the coven plus Teen, because he's not officially a member, he's the character I'm the most interested in, beyond Agatha. Of course, I mean, she's your lead, but he's the one the most interested in. Of course, we're all pretty sure we know who he is. Like, I mentioned one of those subtitles on a trailer was supposed to, or a teaser, to have revealed who it was. But they're certainly leading us to think, like, the show wants us to think it's someone else.
They definitely do a misdirect at some point this
He's
episode.
the character, though, regardless, his backstory, like, that's what I want.
Yeah. Stuart Patterson in the chat. The Green Witch, I assume, represents life or heart, hence Mrs. Hart, who is the original analog for Wanda's heart, but will be subverted by Rio Vidal's Black Heart, is the essence of death as rebirth. Man, that's some poetic stuff you got there, Stuart.
I think it works.
I know, yeah. That's definitely, I think you're onto the right track there with that theory at that point. So here's something interesting. So Jennifer Kale says someone has to call Teen's parents, and he replies that if it's nighttime on the road, then his parents would likely be asleep. Here's an issue. He told Agatha his mother's passed away. However, here's the thing about the sigil, spell, whatever you want to call it. If the spell placed on him prevents him from revealing truths about his past, all he can say is misinformation. Mm-hmm. So, really, we don't know anything. His mother probably isn't dead, if he even has a mother.
He does reference his dad at one point, but
not enough necessarily to be a truth or untruth,
No, he just says something like, "Oh yeah, and my dad, whatever." Like, it was a throwaway line.
Yeah. But the fact that he said his mother died, but everything else he's tried to say truth-wise, she can't hear, or he's silenced.
Well, I don't know why I feel like we have to dance around it. We've talked about this before. If he is Billy, really is Billy grew up in the comics with different parents.
Yes.
He's basically reincarnated. He could still have this other parentage as well. So he could be referring to that the father who raised him, the death of a mother who raised him. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's referring to Wanda. He may not even know about Wanda at this point. He may be believed the misdirect of Nicholas Scratch, Agatha's son.
Yes, Mr. Scratchy. But there's no time to focus on that now, Brent. We've got more important things. We've got trials to go through.
Trials. Let's get to the trials.
So they've lost Sharon, though. As you said, what happened to Sharon? She wandered off and found in a quicksand, so they're lucky to save her. But now is time as ever to let everyone know that they must not stray from the road. And, it's another reference to Wizard of Oz, right? Because if you go off the yellow brick road, the Wicked Witch of the West can get you, right?
I mean, that's kind of the plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta avoid the Wicked Witch.
So then Jen spots a house in the distance, and they set off to investigate. Now, here's some interesting things about the house when they come to. It's like this lovely beach house just randomly showing up. So we all know this is part of the trial.
Right. Was it Miss Hart who's like, oh, are we already at the end of the road? I'm like, ma'am, it's not a driveway. It's a road. It takes longer than this.
I know, it's like all of a sudden everything's dark, and then you get this thing. Yeah, that's a trap. So the door actually has these phases of the moon on it, and T notices that the moon at the door's center is a full moon, indicative of the water phase, which is very much meant to foreshadow something that's going to be occurring later on.
Yeah, funny how that worked.
I'm guessing that this door will not be the only door that they will see with the moons. I think every trial is going to be greeted with them of this door, and the moon is going to change with the phase.
I could see that. I hadn't considered that, but that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'll just get it out of the way here. I know, like, I did have a chance to hear our friends over at Geekverse talk about this, and I know they kind of thought that the setting of a house was kind of dumb or whatever. I'll just say this. I understand their point. I even think it's fair. I just didn't agree because we still had settings on the road. We're back on the road, and they were on the road the whole time. I don't expect the road to look like a dark forest 100% of the time. It's got to look different for the hallucinations to make sense, to put them in those situations.
I think it's going to look different. Just remembering what the trailers we've seen, I think we're going to see the road change.
I think it should. That said, I don't get me wrong. I do want some, creepy just on the road action.
Yeah.
As we all expected as well.
So once inside, they find themselves transformed, no longer dirty and trekking through the road. Their clothes have changed, and now they're looking kind of preppy, coastal, demure, as the kids now say, as they explore the house looking for the clues of what to do next. Now, here's something. Notice something about this. I noticed this on my first watch. Agatha puts her hands over her locket brooch to make sure it's still there. She grabs her chest at one point, as they first enter the house when they all changed over. Subtle way showing how much that brooch means to her and that hair inside.
Whose hair do we think that is?
There's theories going all around from it could be her son, Nicholas Scratch. It could be Rio. Those are the two ones I've seen going back and forth for a while.
I've seen, or I've thought of those two. I've also thought even of her mom, which maybe doesn't necessarily seem like the way that relationship ended. But yeah, Stuart says Nicholas Scratch. Nicholas Scratch is who I think makes the most sense, especially because she still had that room in her house like devoted to him.
Yeah, or as I just put in the chat, Senor Scratchy.
Senor Scratchy, that's right.
So the teen finds an envelope on the fireplace inviting them to the first trial. The card says, "My age has value. I'm no fun alone. I mess with your mind. My tricks are well known." And then, it's one of those things where you see the doors too. You got the big circle in the middle. So again, playing with that idea of the full moon there. So wine. I don't know. I'm drinking wine alone. I mean, it's not necessarily my preferred thing, but,
Look, I'm not a drinker, but I've heard many times of people enjoying a glass of wine by themselves. Mm-hmm. So I do question the riddle a little bit, but I like that it was Mrs. Hart who was the one who saw the bottle of wine and put the clues together.
And did you notice the bottle in the center and how the 5 glasses were placed?
No.
A pentagram.
Oh, okay, yeah, just the way they were.
Yep, just the way they were
standing
arranged
around it. Sure,
yep.
Sure.
So the brand of wine, it was called Reña, which I looked up is Spanish for queen. And the line of text translates to "prepared on the property for the queen bred in 2016." Marvel doesn't necessarily put just years and randomly. So I was trying to think. I just kind of Googled 2016 Scarlet Witch. You know what came up? Scarlet Witch number 5.
Always something.
Where Scarlet Witch ventures into the vineyard in Rio, Spain. So,
is that Scarlet Witch number 5 from
James Robinson?
Thank you, James.
Yep.
The James Robinson run. Okay,
yep.
I was gonna say that's the run that I read around the time of WandaVision.
If you haven't read that run, highly recommend it. Outstanding.
It was good.
Yeah. Teen then goes off and search for a corkscrew, and Jen follows him to watch his back with Agatha, telling him she traded her own child for the Book of the Damned, which is the Darkhold, and no one knows what happened to him. he could be dead, or is it possible that her son has become an agent of Mephisto? Finally, it's been said, Brent.
There it
Mephisto
is.
has been confirmed in the MCU, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. And it was Jamie Dirac, formerly of Comic Book, who had said, basically revealed like a name or a word is spoken for the first time ever that is going to make fans happy in this episode. I'm like, I probably wouldn't have got that detailed. But regardless, it was Mephisto, and pretty. It's nice to hear that. Is Mephisto going to be in the series? Who knows? But at least he's referenced as a thing that exists in the MCU.
Yep, I went back because it was recent in my memory. I did have a Fact or Fiction in episode 220 where I said, and we'll have to wait till the end of the series to see if I'm fully proven true.
That's right.
But I said that Mephisto would be mentioned in the show, but would not officially appear in the show.
Yeah, so you got partial credit. You got the first part there. He was mentioned.
Yep, he's mentioned. So we got to get a few more episodes into the end to see if it'll be a full hashtag Chris told you. So, it's the Stuart saying in the chat. Eric Voss had kittens in them. Yep. So I'm very. I was just kind of smile and say, "Oh, look, said it. We're confirmed." So, but yeah, Mephisto is not the devil in Marvel Comics. He is one of the most famous ones at that point because there has been different devils in Marvel Comics. But Mephisto was introduced in 1968 Silver Surfer #3. She says whatever the true story is, she probably wouldn't even recognize him if he showed up on her doorstep. Teen seems very shaken by that remark.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So they're hinting at a couple of things here, Brent. What are some of the things they're hinting at with Teen?
Well, they want us to think that Teen is Nicholas Scratch. They want us to think that Teen thinks he is Nicholas Scratch, which I don't think those are the same thing. I think those are two very different things from when they want the viewer to know something versus they want the characters on the show to know something. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily think that Jen is implying he's Nicholas, like that she may think that as well, but I wouldn't rule it out either.
Yeah, it's definitely those ideas are being put out there. Again, I think we're all thinking these are misdirects, but just him pausing at that moment, that was interesting. So the witches pour the wine, and when they do, a 30-minute timer mysteriously begins to count, and Sharon gulps the glass down because, remember, she's kidnapped and she's trying to deal with it. The rest of them clink their glasses and start sipping, well, except for Agatha. She sneakily pours her glass into the plant, so she is very aware that this is a trap. So Alice tells Teen that her tattoo was made in Colorado while her mother, Lorna, was performing at the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Morrison, Colorado. And her mother made her that tattoo that's on her to ward off curses due to her strong belief that every woman in the Wu family was cursed. That happened when she was 13. Teen then makes a very interesting comment that a lot happened to him when he was 13.
Yes, I want to know about that, because then I started thinking back. I'm like, how old were those kids at the end of WandaVision? And it's like, I don't think they were that old.
I don't think they were that old.
They did not look that old to me. I mean, they would be a very young looking 13 if that's what the name was.
So Sharon asked at that point, is witch another word for a bad girl? And I was like, oh, sweetie, have another glass. She got the right idea because within minutes, Sharon's face begins to get all puffy and red as if she's having an allergic reaction. In fact, not that Sharon, all the witches begin to experience some sort of swelling. Then the swelling goes down very quickly, but this causes even more panic as Jen says the only one type of poison could lead to this reaction, alewives, revenge. And this is just the beginning. They're about to begin experiencing delirium, loss of motor functions, racing heart, hallucinations, and eventually death. Now, Teen is safe because he's not allowed to drink yet. And despite Agatha's attempts to avoid the same fate, it looks like that's out of the question. Not only do the other witches catch her, and she doesn't do a good job of playing it off. They find out that she's never drinking in her glass, but then it mysteriously fills up again.
Yep, and they had already showed once that it refilled on its own when she did, because it was Teen who caught her, and
yes,
Teen's the one who called her out for it, and it's she had kind of played it off, and like you could see the relief on her face because as soon as their faces swelled, she walked to the other side of the room, used her hair to cover her face, like trying to like pretend like her vanity was hurt or pride was hurt or whatever. And there's relief on her face when their faces go down until they all put together she never had it. So she did eventually have to drink it, but she's behind the rest of them in the process. They would all get their hallucinations before she would get hers.
Yeah. And so when Teen offers to drink the wine, she denies him. That's the second time she's stepped in front of him making an unsafe choice.
She seems to be actively trying to protect him. Right? Either
even though she
stepping in front of him or stopping him from drinking what they know to be poison.
Yeah, it's interesting that does she really know who he is, or she senses he's going to be useful to her, so better to keep him alive and safe.
Possibly the latter, but I feel like she suspects he's somebody important, even if she doesn't know. And because of that, that's why she wants to keep him safe.
Yeah, so before long, Sharon experiences a scary hallucination, screaming for Wanda to spare someone's life. Who is she asking to spare?
Her husband, of course. And while we don't see that hallucination in this episode, we did see it at the beginning of WandaVision.
Here's the thing. We have now had 3 episodes in a row where Wanda's name has been mentioned, uttered. All 3 episodes, Wanda's name's been uttered.
I mean, I kind of suspect that trend is maybe over now, depending on the status at the end of this episode of Mrs. Hart. But she's like the events of WandaVision were so impactful in what's happening with Agatha and the show. And again, keep in mind, like they talked about WandaVision, Agatha, and Vision Quest being a trilogy. But if Mrs. Hart really is dead, and we'll talk about whether or not she is, I'm sure. If she really is dead, there's no one else from Westview.
Yeah, not at all. So then she faints at that point. The witches decide it's time to brew an anecdote before the clock runs out. As the potion gets developed, Jen leads the charge, helping the others find household products that will suffice to plan to use the magical elements that she'd have in hand. Agatha and Lilia find Kale Care products with the double K logo that mirrors Kim Kardashian's double K logo. I can't take credit for that. I saw that floating around on Twitter.
I would never have gotten that.
I would not have gotten it. I saw that saying, yeah, I'll put that in my notes. It's something interesting.
I did not know Kim Kardashian had a double. I'm just going to say I don't exactly follow the Kardashians.
I was one of the people saying, why are they famous again?
I am aware that they exist.
Yes. So as they're looking, the others begin to experience their own hallucination, very personal hallucinations that both terrify them and eats into the time that they're trying to save each other's lives. Alice sees her mother at a sauna screaming that she can't protect her from what's to come. Lila Caldoro comes across a mysterious woman in a yellow dress from the 16th century. That is probably, my idea, is when she was born. She's led down an old hallway with vines growing on the walls and leads them to a room where the corpse of a dead woman sits on the table, with that dead woman possibly being Lilia herself.
Super creepy.
Yeah, however, as the dead woman's eyes suddenly open, a clock skeleton figure suddenly pops up, filling Lilia with fear and giving her a big scare. Jennifer has a hallucination of some random man calling her an inconvenient woman before attempting to drown her and saying, "Now you are nothing." I think each one of those hallucinations represents each one of their fears.
Absolutely. Because that was the point. They're supposed to face their fears. And of course, go back to the one we know the most about, Mrs. Hart. She told us last episode her husband died. She's been lonely. He died. And what was her hallucination when Wanda was presumably killing him?
So Stuart says, and he corrected it, said, now you mentioned that Kale products, it makes sense that the Pretty Little Liars setting, because she lied about what was in her products in the trial specifically for Jennifer. Wow, okay, that makes sense. I knew it was a trial for Jennifer just because she's the one who has to make the potion, but that's a really good pull, Stuart. Thank you for that. That's really interesting. I never watched Pretty Little Liars, but I know where you're getting at. So, heading back where I lost my train of thought. Okay. So now that they've gotten enough on their hands, the window in the living room of the house begins to crack. When Agatha started trying to hit to get out, it's cracked. But now they're underwater all of a sudden, and now it's starting to begin to shatter, and they're going to drown. So they need to move quick. The women are starting to lose their motor functions. Just then, Agatha hears a baby crying, and she sees an infant in a bassinet. But then when she opens up the bassinet, what is there in there?
The Darkhold.
The
Book of the Damned.
The Book of the Damned, of who she supposedly traded her son in order to get access to. So she's horrified. It quickly snaps out of it, and the women need her help to complete the potion. They start mixing the potion in the sink, and Jen realizes they're missing something. What are they missing? With 1 minute left, what are they missing?
Well, okay, they're missing blood with 1 minute left.
Yeah.
But the blood of the unpoisoned specifically, which gave them. But there's one other. I want to jump back a second.
Yeah.
There's another ingredient that I feel they missed.
Okay.
The hair of Mrs. Hart.
Yes. Hold
one of them.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Yeah, hold that thought, because I want you to jump into that, because I think that plays into what happens.
Yes.
At that point. So, but even with, so the blood is the point, and they use that with Teen. But Agatha actually becomes a good person at this moment to get Jen to think about saying, calms her down, because she's panicking, saying even though she's hated her, she allowed her to do what she needs to do, because even though they can take her power, she said, they can't take her knowledge. And at that moment, she gives her the confidence and realizes they're missing the blood of basically a virgin at that point.
Yeah, the unpoisoned.
The unpoisoned.
So none of their blood would work. Teen's does, because he never took it.
Yep. So with the blood in the sink, they're able to finish the potion and save themselves. So they almost forget about Sharon, and they just barely make it getting it into her, but nothing snaps out of it. So go on with what you're trying to bring up, Brent, because I think that's very a true statement.
Before the blood went in, the last ingredient before the blood went in was a hair of every single member of the coven. Jen's like, okay, circle around, pull one hair straight out, plug it in. We're going to all drop them in at the same time. And at this point, this whole time, I'm saying, where's Mrs. Hart? She's still laying on the counter in the kitchen that she commented earlier about, something like, what did she say? Just let me die in this kitchen, or bury me in this kitchen, or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the line was, but it's like, oh, I guess in hindsight, I should have picked up on that. The whole time I'm thinking, you're not completing the potion because it's not for Mrs. Hart. And then I realized, oh, they did complete the potion for themselves.
Yep, they did.
It's not going to work on Mrs. Hart because it was never completed for her.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're able to save themselves, and they think they're able to save Sharon. But as time runs out, the windows of the house shatter. And then the oven door clangs open, and it appears to be the way out. I can't remember which one of the witches said. I think it was Lilia that says, "I'm not going in there. I've heard of people going in there." And what is that a reference to?
I assume as a Hansel and Gretel.
Yep, Hansel and Gretel. What happened to the witch and Hansel and Gretel? So they go in there. They have no other choice. They drag an unconscious Sharon with them. They crawl through the oven, shutting the door behind them. And just like that, they pass the first test. They're back on the witch's road. Well, except for one person.
Yeah, poor Mrs. Hart. I thought actually got a little chuckle when they're all like, "Oh no, Sharon's dead," and Agatha at the end, "Who's Sharon?" She just could not pick up on her name just the whole time. And others were kind of going back and forth on what they were calling her, but just Sharon. Who's Sharon? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh at that, but we've already proven on this show I will laugh at some stuff that I maybe.
You laugh some pretty dark stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
So I was like, oh, I'm sorry, poor Mrs. Hart, but.
Oh my God! They killed Mrs. Hart.
You bastards! But it's like that's why. And
do you think she's really dead?
Yes and no. I do think she really died. Mm-hmm. Do I think that we will not see her again? No, I don't. I think we will see her again. Let me phrase it that way. I think she died. I think she could be reanimated. She could haunt them. She could haunt Agatha. And keep in mind, Agatha wanted to leave her behind in the kitchen anyway. She didn't want to go back for her, and so I don't think we've seen the last of her in the show. But I do think, at least as of this moment, the body is dead.
Yeah. Stuart's got a question for us in the chat. He said, I'd like to get thoughts on Agatha's vision with the cradle and the Darkhold. What are your thoughts on her reaction? It makes me think she didn't sacrifice her son intentionally.
I feel like you could certainly read it that way. The other way you could read it is she has regrets over what she did, and she's tortured by the decision. Either way, I think
that's kind of my read too.
Either way, I think it confirms the story that Jen told of she sacrificed her baby to get the Darkhold. Like, either way, Jen even said, like, maybe it's not true, but it's what they say. I think this tells us, the viewer, it's definitively true.
Yeah, and he also calls good call on the hair. Didn't realize that. I didn't realize it until I listened to Geekverse, and I found it funny that it was Travis's daughter that had pointed it out.
Credit to Travis's daughter, you know that?
Yeah.
I liked it, but good. I'm on par with the 5-year-old. It's like I'm watching this, and does
that track with you, Brent?
You know, story checks out.
Story checks out. So here's the other thing. To your point about how the Witch's Road looks, going back and seeing how the Witch's Road looks when they were going down right before they got to the house, it's kind of got a purple blue kind of feel to it. Could the next one be red with fire?
That's something I hadn't thought about.
So the trials could be the idea of the essences, because we look at Eve so many different times, the Infinity Stones keep on rearing their ugly head, and it represents the essence of all kind of the universal stuff. So we've got blue, we always got, we got the Green Witch, yellow.
I wonder
red.
if we're going to see the red fire demon thing that was in the trailers then.
Oh, I'm fairly confident.
I mean, I think we'll see it eventually. I think that was put in there. And I call it that because I'm not willing to say that's Mephisto, just red fire demon.
Hey, we got Mephisto confirmed. We're everything's coming up Millhouse right now.
I call it a win. Mephisto is confirmed in the MCU, but I wonder if you're right about the red, it would fit. I don't know.
Yeah.
And to be clear, if they put out any kind of trailer, as always, I never watch them. I have no clue if they've put out any more trailers.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't watch them. I don't want to see them. I can wait a week and just, let the show come to. This is the opportunity I can be as cold as possible going into the show. So where I don't know what's happening. So I roll with that.
Yeah. So, but all right. So we will look at obviously next week, episode 4. Of Agatha All Along, and that is the last episode that the screeners had gone out for, if I'm not mistaken. I think the people got 4 episodes.
Yes, 4 episodes.
So, all right. Well, we're going to take our next ad break to start our breakdown of the Thunderbolts trailer. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right. Brent, let me pull up. So Thunderbolts, asterisks. Like we said, this was a complete surprise of what was, usually a lot of times scoopers start getting hints of saying a trailer dropping this. I didn't see anything like that out there this weekend.
Nope, not a bit.
So this dropped, I think, Tuesday? September 23rd, it says on the... I
thought it was Monday morning.
Okay, Monday morning, maybe. So, yeah, this drops...
Monday morning.
Okay, Monday morning, this drops. And, there's been a lot of stuff going around about this particular movie. And I think I get when people say, like, okay, Thunderbolts, that's Marvel's answer to Suicide Squad. I think it's got hints of it. I think that is not necessarily what this is trying to be.
It's just like when the Suicide Squad movie came out and people, myself included, said the same thing about Guardians of the Galaxy. At the surface level thing, there is something there to that comment.
There's something.
There. So someone who says, even at the surface level, there is something to the Thunderbolts and the Suicide Squad. But This group of Thunderbolts, it's not made up of like out and out villains the way the Suicide Squad was. So
Yeah.
like it's not the exact same, but there is definitely some overlap in those Venn diagrams.
Yep.
I mean, you can't deny that there's
No, you can't. But the original iteration of the Thunderbolts has nothing to do with the Suicide Squad.
yes.
It's more of the how it turned into at that point.
Yes,
So.
I would agree.
All right, so we're gonna play the trailer again. Volume is off on it, just because we don't want to get demonetized. But the song, before I even start, the song that's playing throughout the trailer is called "Where Is My Mind" by the Pixies. If you are a fan of the movie Fight Club, this was prominently featured in it. The song is really actually about scuba diving, and I like the idea of "Where's My Mind" because there is a character that is introduced that you and I know who they're going to be, and we'll point it out at that point that it is very apropos because where is his mind?
Where is my mind?
Yep. So, brief history of the Thunderbolts. They were created by Kurt Busiek and you and mine, one of our favorite artists. Who is that in Marvel?
Oh, Mark Bagley.
Mark Bagley. At that point, they were created and came after Onslaught, when most of the Avengers had disappeared and presumed dead. This was a new hero team that had come about. I really don't want to ruin the surprise of who was leading them and what they were revealed to be at that point, but originally the world thought them as heroes.
Yep. And,
So.
Not so much, but this particular group of Thunderbolts is more made up of at least some heroes.
Yeah. So I'll say that this looks to be a group of anti-heroes / possibly villains in line with a Black Ops team, much like Nick Fury's Secret Avengers that was created for many years to do the missions that the public-facing heroes can't do. So, trailer opens with Yelena knocking on her adopted father's door. Alexei, a.k.a. the Red Guardian, who thinks it's DoorDash. Like he says that your subordinates will be reported to DoorDash HQ. So, if you have no idea who these two characters are, watch Black Widow.
Yes.
We're not going to rehash it right now. So as she finally open there, she says, "Dad, it's me." And yeah, Lexi's kind of looking pretty rough. His house is, not in good order.
No, and I like it when she's like, "Are you fulfilled?" He says, "Very full, very filled."
Yeah, it's cleaning up. It says so many different missions at that point. Now, what I find interesting is that his apartment or his house is filled with American memorabilia and veteran iconography. The flag behind him, as you'll see later, it says "Strength and Freedom." There was a poster at one point that behind Yelena where he is the Red Guardian holding the hammer, which is the symbol for the industrial workers. And his tattoo, you'll see later, reads Yelena and Natasha on his chest. It's a picture of his fake wife, Melinda.
I mean,
But they just have a great playoff relationship. They do so well.
It's worth remembering they may have all tried to say they were a fake family, but by the end of that movie, they all admitted no, we are family.
Well, Yelena was the one who said it might have been fake, but it was real to me.
Right, but the others even ultimately they all basically went along with it. I like the Marvel Studios logo in yellow. We usually see it in red or red and white. I dig that look.
Why is it yellow, Brent? There's always a reason for these colors.
Well, I assume it's to match the Thunderbolts logo.
There's that, or another character at that point.
Oh, you mean Bob? Certainly.
Yes,
possible.
Bob. A century.
Certainly possible.
So as the Marvel logo pans up, I always love this kind of shot. It's kind of like an elevator, and you hear this dinging in the background. There's something wrong with me, she says. Now, we see, Yelena taking on a similar uniform that Natasha had, much like Natasha, when Yelena was snapped, took on her vest, even though, yes, Yelena gave it to her, but she was purposely wearing it. We didn't know what it was at the time until we saw Black Widow. That's where it came from. So she's very much homaging what Natasha did with her. So we get our first look at Bucky, looking very put together, and he's entering. The pin on him is, he's in the U.S. Senate and he's wearing the Senate pin. A couple of things. The reason there's a lot of theories going around. He either has reached the point where he is a senator. That would be pretty outrageous at that point.
Yeah.
Or he is working for the U.S. Senate or a senator at that point, which is why he would be wearing that pin, because that's how they're identified. Only members or people who work in the Senate get that pin.
It's got to be the latter. There's no way he's a senator.
Yeah.
I guess I can't say that, but I would be shocked if he was.
Yep. She says, I'm just drifting. And who is this, Brent?
Good old John Walker.
Discount Home Depot Captain America, U.S. agent.
I prefer Walmart Captain America, but you do you.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing that we can't forget that sequence when he was making his own shield with his own two hands. It was precious. But he's not looking too good right now. He's looking kind of depressed.
Very depressed. He's looking at this on his phone. There, they show you he's looking at this article, "Fall of a Hero," the John Walker story. It says, and he's basically trying to stuck in what he sees as the glory days. And oh man, it's that shot of him coming down the steps from the end of what is that, the first or second episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah, where he comes out. Yep.
Just everybody immediately hated him. It's like, you are not my Cap, but He was rough, and his baby's sitting there in the background, with his new baby. But I don't remember them alluding to his wife being pregnant in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
No, I don't think we had it. He was looked like in a better place, but right now, I mean, he was kind of Val's first recruit,
Yep.
So, but he's looking a little rough. He's got a full beard going on. And so I know a lot of people saw this explosion and where they were. I saw some people say, is this Madripoor? No, this is New York. This is someplace in New York, because later on we'll see her in a very similar sequence. New York tags are going on in the background. So gotta love a good hallway sequence, right?
Every time.
So the fight mirrors very much like Natasha had in Iron Man, but a bit darker, because she ain't playing. She gonna bam. She John Wicked him. Here, so they're in this. She's going through and kind of enters this lab. Now, I kind of thought this at one point, because later in the trailer we're going to get some confirmations we've been wondering for a very long time about something, and we're going to hold off on saying what that is. I'm going to say it right now. Actually, we get some confirmation of Avengers Tower in this trailer. What if she is in Avengers Tower right now? That
is my assumption. I'm with you on that.
So there's a bunch of IV bags around, and then who appears? Okay, right here. This is interesting, because at some point I had to zoom in and kind of expand my screen at that point. A lot of different things, like different versions of blonde hair. There's the words Watchtower placed on there, which is the Sentry's headquarters. So they are experimenting with genetics and creating their own superhero again.
And Bob.
So there we go. There's John Walker. His suit's looking a little rough. His shield, as we see later on, is looking pretty rough.
My son saw a picture of him as I was scrolling Twitter, and he looked over my shoulder and saw a picture of him. He's like, "Is that Captain America? That's a cool costume." I was like, "Oh, no, that's not Captain America."
So the interesting thing is that I think she was sent to kind of get that or do that, because she uses that, and she had to have known that was bulletproof.
Probably. I mean, probably. Otherwise, she's really lucky.
Yeah, because it's the same. It looks to be the same briefcase we see here. So he opens fire on her, and we get a little fight going on. And we got some more people. Who is this, Brent?
Oh, that looks like Taskmaster right there. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go ahead and say, because I know a lot of people are discussing this, I don't mind the mask. I think it's fine. I actually liked the costume more in Black Widow. I thought that was a cooler looking costume,
Well, it's
but
more
but
comic
this is
accurate.
but this one it's fine. Like it's not going to ruin anything for me.
I don't have a problem with it. I know why they changed it is because, and I know they talked about this Geek first, but I had read about it anyways before that, where due to China's release, the the mask formerly was more like skull like, and there are some issues with that in China.
Sure.
So yeah, so we see her back at that point. Oh, we get another one. Someone we
Ghost.
thought wasn't coming back, and she's gotten good.
Yeah.
This was a cool.
sequence.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. She's gonna be fun.
I actually really like that whole sequence with the knife as it bounces around the different people or
Yep.
gets thrown to the different people, ending up with Yelena. For Ghost costume, I think this one's probably an upgrade for me over what she had in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I never minded her look there, but
No,
I
I
think
didn't.
this one's a little cooler.
But it'll be interesting to see some of these characters' backstories of since things that have happened at that point. But yeah, we get introduced to Robert Reynolds, Bob, aka the Sentry. So who is the Sentry? Well, you come to the show to give you a little bit of the Cliff Notes version so you don't read, but I suggest you do read up on the Sentry. He was Marvel's Superman, and he was there during the introduction of the heroes such as Spider-Man, Hulk, Fantastic Four. Everyone forgot who he was, though, including himself. The comic that this is based on, Century #1, starts off with Bob being an alcoholic and can't remember who he is. It's later revealed that Doctor Strange and Reed Richards worked together to wipe the memory of the Sentry from all of existence, including him, but it was at his request. Sounds like another person made people forget who he was.
Yeah, a little Peter Parker-ish.
Yep. So he gets his powers from drinking a super serum, which we're going to see Yelena looking like she's picking up vials too. So I think that's what she was after. The government is yet again creating their own superhero. And so this is not going to go well.
And I maintain, like, I think this lineup for the Thunderbolts is great. I like, but they're great against a street level villains or slightly heightened villains. Against a Superman level character, I don't know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. So Bob, played by Bill Pullman's son. I can't remember his first name.
I don't know. Mr. Pullman.
Mr. Pullman. I'm going to look it up right now. Thunderbolts cast. Someone's probably going to beat me in the chat. Lewis Pullman. Excuse me, Lewis Pullman. So he's played now two Bobs because he played Bob in Top Gun 2.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So, but this was originally the part of Bob Reynolds was going to be played by Stephen Yeun. However, he had to drop out after the strikes because everything had gotten pushed back. So he had to drop out at that point. So Lewis Pullman now has inherited the role. So as we continue on in the trailer, he said you all were sent. It looks like they've wandered into a trap where they're all expected to die. So it says we all have done bad things, shadow ops, robbing government things. So I think this is an opening mission for Yelena. I think this is where she's going to start stealing the serum. So someone wants us all gone. 1 minute countdown. Gotta love it. So in 2025.
Right there.
Yep.
Did you see it?
Oh, there's a few things I've seen.
Loki's scepter?
Yep.
Just chilling in the middle of all those people?
Yep. So there's a couple of things. So this is, how do I want to say this? That this movie, this scene right here looks to be Val at a fundraiser honoring the heroes of the Battle of New York, because you see two posters in the background. If you zoom in, one of them is Hawkeye and the other one is Iron Man, as well as various other artifacts from the Battle of New York. Loki's scepter, Shatari guns, and a Shatari Leviathan tooth is there. This movie seems very much focused on legacy. And many of these heroes and anti-heroes are living in the shadow of their former Avengers and are trying to live up to their example that they set, or they owe the Avengers some kind of debt. and probably Val is going to capitalize on that idea of the debt they think they owe.
Certainly going to try.
Yep. There's Val, Bucky. So this sequence where Yelena's running, I don't think this is real. I think this is something. This way, the twists of the camera busting through and then landing where she is.
I just thought it was two sequences put together.
Could be, but it seems something that. So we see Bob standing with gunmen, open fire, and they're not going to get too far because the Sentry's invulnerable.
A lot of bullet holes there.
Yep. Oh, gotta love that. Bucky's cleaning his arm. That's a new arm. Why am I saying that's a new arm, Brent?
Well, I mean, wouldn't that be his Wakandan arm?
But that's not. Someone else has his arm. Who has his arm?
Oh, because you're in the Guardians of the Galaxy special. Rocket gave it to Nebula.
Yeah. No. Nebula gave it to Rocket.
Nebula gave it to Rocket. My mistake. You're right.
Yep.
You're right.
So that's a new arm. Looks very similar. Probably the Wakandans gave him a new arm since Nebula stole it. But I like it that he's cleaning it in the dishwasher.
I mean, where else would you clean it? That just seems logical to me.
All right. So looking at the serum, gotta love that. And a little more fight sequence with U.S. Agent and I think Red Guardians in the background. All right, this whole sequence right here, this is very much homaging Civil War. Not Civil War, Winter Soldier, excuse me, Winter Soldier.
I think parts of it are for sure. I also think it's a misdirect.
So he's ripping down, goes more fighting. Yep, gotta love that symbol there. Look at that.
There it is.
There's a Sentry. I gotta love that shot.
The elevator shot
coming
is
off
very
the
cool.
yeah.
A lot of people think that Taskmaster is not long for this movie because she's not in the elevator shot.
Yeah, she may not be. She may be the, as some people say, the Slipknot of this movie. So this is where we finally get our confirmation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Avengers Tower. There's still some moving on happening because that is the bar that we are very familiar with from Avengers Age of Ultron. We now have some sort of confirmation of who now owns Avengers Tower. It is either Val or the CIA own Avengers Tower. So, what do you think about that, Brent?
I would predict CIA then, not Val directly, but Val's running it.
Remember, we can't even we got to be careful. We can't even think or say her name.
Don't call her Val.
Yep. So he said that there's not good guys, there's not bad guys, there's bad guys, and there was worse guys, and nothing else. Look at you, so adorable. Those Thunderbolts asterisks. Here's what I'm going to say about this, Brent. I don't think I'm the only one thinking this, so I'm not going to claim I'm the only one saying this. I think at the end of this movie, that title is going to change to Marvel Studios' Dark Avengers.
I think there's a very good likelihood of that.
We're not going to get it till the end of the movie. They're not going to change the title suddenly at that point.
Kind of like the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier changed to Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Yes, everything, all these members have some sort of shades of the Avengers team in some way, shape, or form.
I think you might be right about that.
So I love this ending. We always gotta have a funny, usually with one of these trailers at that point. Red Guardian's driving because it says diplomatic, and so he says, "Don't worry, that she's bulletproof." This isn't his car. He's just assuming because it's a diplomatic car, it's bulletproof, and it is not.
No,
bulletproof-ish. There's Bucky,
and this is the part I think is a misdirect. I don't necessarily think he shot them. He may have, but the way it's cut, it could easily be someone else.
Oh yeah, they're very good at cutting that. But that gun he uses, that is Winter Soldier. That's the same Winter Soldier gun.
Mm-hmm. Shoots the thing under the car that pops it upwards.
Yep. So only in theaters May 2025. So yeah, that is some interesting. Oh, Brock agrees with me with something. I don't know what he agreed with me on.
The Dark Avengers.
Oh, Dark Avengers, yeah. So So yeah, it nice surprise. So first trailer we get of this. So we've gotten now trailers for next year's movies with Captain America, Brave New World. So we now have 2 trailers for that.
For Brave New World.
Or one trailer we've seen.
One, and then there was some leaked footage.
Leaked footage at that point, and now Thunderbolts. So we're building our case towards 2025.
Yep, just one movie left to drop a trailer, but they've only been filming for about 3 days, so.
Yeah, I'll give them time. We'll have it.
They got plenty of time.
All right, so I'm excited about that. And but yeah, so let us take our final ad break before we get into listener feedback, factor fictions, and all that jazz. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So they give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So Brent, what do we got for feedback for this week? Listener questions.
No traditional questions, let's say, but we do have a couple factor fictions.
Okay, so we want to just kind of put them right there, is what you're telling me?
Yep, factor fiction time.
Let me get that, because I thought we might have had some, so I was not ready. So give me a second as I pull those up from last week. So these were mine from last week. Here we go. All right, number 1. We will not see Shuri as Black Panther again until Avengers Doomsday. 56% said fact, 44% said fiction. Number 2, Doctor Strange 3 will be the film that leads directly into Avengers Doomsday. 47% said fact, 53% disagree with it as fiction. And number 3, we will see a live-action adaptation of at least one of the variant characters from What If in Avengers Secret Wars. 87% say fact.
Okay.
All right, so what you got?
All right, so I have some Agatha-related factor fictions this week. So I guess we could call them potential predictions, and then we'll see. First up, Agatha is going to appear in the Vision Quest show, but in new footage.
Mm-hmm.
Agatha will appear in Vision Quest in new footage.
One more time. I'm trying to...
Agatha will appear in Vision Quest in new footage.
That's tough. I'm going to say fiction. I don't see that right now.
I think it is most likely a fiction, but I think I could see them using footage of her, but I think it'll be archival footage from WandaVision. If they do. I don't think it'll be anything new.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. So, yep, both fiction. All right.
All right.
What you got next?
We will see Agatha and Wanda meet again before the multiverse saga is over. We're going to see them together again. It's a long timeline I gave it.
Yeah. I just don't know if people are going to respond as well to this show, to warrant her coming back.
Well, it's not the phenomenon that WandaVision is.
No, it's not.
For sure. It's not that level.
I don't think people are going to, no pun intended, hearken for for them to be seen on screen together. I'm going to say fiction to that as well.
This one I'm a fact. I feel like what they've gone through, at some point they'll have a moment. Is it going to be lengthy? Probably not. But I think they will have a moment on screen together at some point. All right, final one. Okay. Nicholas Scratch will be in Agatha, but he is not teen.
Nicholas Scratch will be in Agatha, but he's not teen. Yes, fact. I've got at least one fact in there. Yeah,
I'm more positive about the second half of that than I am the first half.
Fair.
But I wanted to give it a little bit more oomph on it to make it a little bit harder to get. And then let's see from first up, these are also Agatha related. From Carrie, Aubrey Plaza is actually playing the Shadow King, possibly a variant, reprising her role from the Legion series.
That is a deep pull, Carrie. It has been so long since I've seen Legion. I have not done a rewatch of that.
I've never actually seen it.
It's trippy. It's trippy at that point. It's actually
really like the character. I can't explain why, but I just never really liked the character.
Yeah, it's not necessarily one of my favorites either, but playing Shadow King, I could see I don't think that. I think that would be a crazy pull at that point. Not outside the realm of possibility, Carrie. I do like where your head's at. I could see them maybe giving a tip of the hat to Shadow King, like they do winks and nods to things like that. But yeah, I'm a fiction on that one.
I'm going fiction if for no other reason than I always thought of, and maybe I'm just wrong, but the Shadow King as more of a psychic villain, astral plane type stuff than magical villain. But I respect the legacy casting. I am a fan of that.
Brock said that would be an amazing twist.
He liked Legion. All right, from Anthony.
Full disclosure.
From Anthony, Agatha all along, including the credit scenes, will have an unexpected MCU cameo from someone not in WandaVision. He thinks it'll be Wong.
Agatha all along, including credit scenes, will have an unexpected MCU cameo from someone not in WandaVision. Well, we are in the Wong. We haven't been in the Wong CU for a while, though.
The Wong part is just his prediction on it.
Yeah.
It's not part of the Fact or Fiction.
No, I know. No, yeah, I get that much. Would I like it? I'm just trying to figure out who would fit. You know,
I actually think Wong is the best fit for it.
I mean, Wong's the best fit, but even then,
Supreme,
that's kind of,
you know, like I think he is the best fit for it.
He's the best fit, but I still don't see it. So I'm still a fiction man. I'm down on a lot of these tonight. Not saying like, you know, we've created sometimes as you did, you know, fact or fictions where we're all fictions at, but yeah. There's not much this week
like,
for me.
I thought of them, and I just, as far as this one goes, I like the idea. I don't think it's gonna happen. So even with Wong, I think I gotta go fiction on it. But I do like the idea.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I will post all those on Twitter on Sunday afternoon. So let your voices be heard with that. And all right, Brent, Young Avengers Comic Book Club number 2. This is where we get it was a great issue. I mean, I thought the first issue was great, but I love we getting the backstory of Iron Lad, you know, after the bombshell that was dropped after the first issue, that he is a younger version of Kang the Conqueror before he becomes Kang the Conqueror.
I like when Jessica Jones is like, is this a time travel thing? And Iron Man just says, if Kang's involved, it's a time travel thing.
Yeah, there would be no other explanation for that. So what did you think about that, the backstory of our Iron Lad?
I think it's a great backstory. It's so weird though to see him on the receiving end of like the schoolyard bullies, right? Like flashback to him, which isn't that far ago, being bullied, and then suddenly as an adult, Kang appears in front of him, more or less takes him, shows him his future, and tells him all the major highlights of being Kang, and kind of freaks the kid out, you know. How would you feel if, as a kid, your future self said, "Oh, you're going to be a supervillain"?
Yeah, exactly, and you might as well wipe him out now. So, but instead, he turns it on Kang himself.
Pretty much, and he takes the armor he was given, and he goes back in time to escape to a time when he thought the Avengers would be able to be there to stop Kang.
Yep. But at that point, the Avengers had disbanded. So when we cut to Hulkling and Wiccan at that point, or Thor Jr.
Asgardian.
I'm still going to call Wiccan just because I just know that more than Asgardian. So
fair enough.
But we get Patriot on the car. It's always funny seeing exactly them, Patriot trying to do, you know, heroic things. Thank goodness he's wearing a bulletproof vest, because that would not have been a good look.
No, he wouldn't have made it very long.
And Hulkling, you know, owning up to the name, you know, being easily able at that point, and they ask him if he's hurt, saying, "You okay?" "Yeah, almost healed." So he's not necessarily Hulk-like, because I don't think even Hulk would feel that.
No, Hulk wouldn't have felt that for sure. So Hulkling, you know, our younger Hulk here, is nowhere near as powerful.
And what did they find in the car? Because that's a big hint towards future things.
Let's see. That was the MGH, right? Mutant growth hormone.
Mutant growth hormone at
gives
that point.
normal civilians, normal people powers for a while.
Yeah, so that may come back and haunt them in a little bit. Not necessarily this, but MGH. So,
Right.
but yeah, so we get a cut to Cassie Lang and our soon-to-be new version of Hawkeye.
Yeah. Kate Bishop.
Kate
Cassie
Bishop
Lang,
is there.
and
They're trying to get into the Avengers mansion.
right, and Cassie just know. I mean, it makes sense, but she just knows the codes because she used to live there.
Exactly, and she's basically seeing the spot where her father died. That's a lot to take in.
Yeah, for sure. And she had already revealed she doesn't have any kind of superpowers or anything, but she wants the helmet, the Ant-Man helmet. She wants the costume. She wants her dad's stuff.
So, and the Young Avengers show up there, and they gotta have. I love the back and forth that Patriot and Kate Bishop have.
Yes, absolutely.
We can tell. Yeah, you're gonna be battling for leadership on this team, and
Yeah.
we know who's gonna win. So, and I love the name Ant Girl.
Ant Girl. Yeah. I like the name she picks later better.
I like how Patriot goes, "How old are you? 15? No, seriously, how old are you? I'm seriously 15 in June."
In June. Yeah.
Yeah, she says like she's gonna go get her stuff, and Patriot's like, "You're not going in there," and I'm like, "Dude, she has more of a claim to the mansion than you do, you know."
100%.
So, but I love how she's get angrier and angrier. I'm not leaving without it. Cassie, I thought you said you didn't have powers. She's like, "You don't," and we end with, "That's how it looks like from here."
Yep. And she is a giant girl,
Yep.
I guess, at this point.
So yeah, so we leave off with another cliffhanger that Cassie Lang has powers.
Yes.
So and remember, Scott Lang has the connection to he is not the original Ant-Man, as we all know, even from the MCU, but they've kind of kept that idea. So how did Cassie get these powers?
Great question.
So but yeah, so that is where issue 2 leaves off. So we will continue next week with number 3. As we again, I so enjoy rereading this series. It's a lot of fun.
Small clarification. 2 weeks for number
2
3.
weeks. Oh yes.
2 weeks for number 3 because I'll be at my conference next week.
Yes, Brent will be off again. Brent is abandoning us again, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
am. But at least this one I've known about for a year.
Yes, this is a planned absence at that point.
Yes.
So, but we will be missed. And who will be subbing in for you next week?
Mr. Hines. Travis Hines is gonna make his appearance.
Yeah, so Mr. Hines will be back, and we appreciate him coming on the show. So, Brent, in the meantime, yes, we will take a break from Comic Book Club for 1 week for 3, but tell people how they can follow you.
Yeah, Brentech Prime on Twitter is mostly where I'm at, but I'm on the other socials as well.
Exactly. Always lurk into his DMs. Slip into those DMs.
Slip into my DMs. That's right.
So, yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network. And you can feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions, provide fact or fictions. DMs are open across the board on all the accounts. Continue to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, post-credits discussion. It's been a few weeks. We haven't talked too much about Deadpool and Wolverine, and this kind of caught my attention. Not a big story, but kind of an interesting one. This is coming from Variety. Deadpool and Wolverine sets Oscar campaigns, including Hugh Jackman being submitted for awards considerations. So Marvel Studios is setting their sights on some pretty high awards for this award season. They are looking to replicate the success of the 2016 original, and they are pushing Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman and the Multiverse spectacle with with the major awards group. So Sean Levy's billion-dollar summer blockbuster will be submitted for consideration at the Golden Globes in the comedy category. So here's the thing about the Golden Globes. They put movies in comedy categories that aren't comedies. This one actually fits.
Yeah.
With Reynolds' performance as Wade Wilson, Deadpool vying for one of the 6 spots in the actor category, comedy or musical. In a surprising move, Jackman's return as Logan will be positioned as a supporting actor. Races go across the board, including the Golden Globes, Screen Actors Guild Awards, Critics' Choice, and even the Oscars. So they are submitting Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, for Best Supporting Actor in the Oscars.
Would I love it if he won? Sure, that'd be great. Do I expect him to? No. And sometimes they do those kind of like, we never gave it to you before, so we're going to kind of do like, here's the Oscar more for your career than it is for the individual. Like, that's how it feels like it would be for this. Like, even if he won for this, it'd be more like, you won for this, but we're really just factoring in your entire career as Wolverine.
Is it like Nickelback?
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but
it's music, but it sucks.
I don't put a lot of stock in the award shows to begin with, but it is important to the people who make the movie. So
it is.
Hopefully it can take home some wins.
So auditioning the film is almost guaranteed, according to Variety, to get a spot in the Golden Globes' recently introduced category. I'd forgotten about this, Cinematic and Box Office Achievement category. Added last year, it celebrates the year's most critically acclaimed and highest-grossing films. Last year's inaugural prize went to Greta Gerwig's billion-dollar phenomenon Barbie, which was nominated for 8 Oscars, including Best Picture. I don't think it won many. To qualify for the category, films must gross at least $150 million, with $100 million coming from the U.S., or achieve comparable digital streaming viewership figures recognized by the industry. In the Oscars, Deadpool and Wolverine is being submitted for technical categories of production design, sound, and visual effects. So this is, it's gonna be interesting. Again, Wayne Gretzky always said it best. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Why not? Do I think that Hugh Jackman's portrayal of Wolverine in this one, I think he should have been submitted for Oscar contention for Logan.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this movie way more than Logan, but even I would probably say, as far as what like the Oscars are more likely to value, that would have been the movie.
That would have been the movie at that point. But, I'll take it. If he gets put in there, yeah, a lot of things, whether we come down it or not, like these award shows need to get viewership. And if they end up doing it to get the viewership, I get it. So I'm not going to necessarily say that, hey, I'd be disappointed. But yeah, give them their flowers. Why not? It wouldn't be the strangest thing at that point, but yeah, I could see the Golden Globes going for this. Oscars, I think that's a bigger lift for them.
Yeah,
they're a little too hoity-toity. So, but yeah, so we'll check that out, see if they actually get in there. We've got a lot of time before those are actually officially chosen at that point, but we'll keep an eye out for it. So, all right, listeners, we will see you next week for volume 231, looking at the very least, Agatha All Along, episode 4. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.